What if the very man meant to protect his daughter decided to make her his queen? From the outside, the kingdom seemed unshakable, armies strong, palaces glittering with gold, and the king praised as the guardian of power. But inside those marble walls, rot was spreading. Behind the curtain of glory lay a darkness that no one dared to speak of. It began as whispers. Servants noticed the king's unusual closeness with his daughter. He offered her not just gifts of jewelry and silks, but poems written in his own hand. Poems that no father should ever write for a child. In the royal court, silence ruled. Some called it fatherly love, others pretended not to notice. But in their hearts, they knew something was terribly wrong. Medieval kings often twisted religion and power for their own desires, and this king was no different. He began to speak of destiny, of purity, of a bond that only he and his daughter shared. And so strange rituals began, private dinners where no one else was allowed, secret songs sung only for her, even ceremonies in which he placed crowns upon her head as if she were already his queen. But soon, these whispers were no longer whispers. The king was preparing to announce something unthinkable, and the world inside his palace would never be the same again. What began as affection soon twisted into something far darker. The king slowly isolated his daughter from the world. Her companions were dismissed, her tutors silenced, and even the ladies-in-waiting were forbidden to speak freely in her presence. Anyone who tried to comfort her mysteriously disappeared from the palace. In his mind, this was no madness. He believed it was destiny. The blood of kings must remain pure, he declared. Who else is worthy of my throne but my own flesh and blood? He cloaked his obsession with the language of power and divine right, and in the world of medieval monarchs, who could dare call him wrong? But for the young princess, the golden palace became a gilded cage. The jewels she wore felt heavier than chains. Every banquet, every ceremony, every silent dinner under the flicker of candlelight was a reminder that escape was impossible. She smiled because she was ordered to smile. She bowed because she was forced to bow. Inside, she was drowning. The court was not blind. Nobles whispered behind closed doors. Priests trembled in horror, but none dared to confront the king. His wrath was legendary. One word against him could mean the death of an entire family, and so silence reigned, a silence more terrifying than any scream. Still, rebellion began to stir in secret. Quiet alliances formed in hidden chambers. Glances exchanged in the shadows spoke more than words. Everyone knew that something had to be done, but no one had the courage to act first. And then, one night, the king revealed his obsession in a way so shocking that even his most loyal supporters began to tremble. The day of the king's grand announcement arrived. The royal court gathered in the great hall, nobles dressed in silk, priests clutching their holy books, servants waiting in silence. No one knew what the king would declare, but all sensed that it would change the kingdom forever. The king rose from his throne, his crown gleaming beneath the torchlight. His voice echoed across the marble walls. And then, with no shame, no hesitation, he proclaimed the unthinkable. He would take his daughter as his queen. The room froze. Gasps spread like wildfire, but no one dared to speak. The nobles looked at each other with horror. The priests lowered their eyes in disbelief, yet all remained silent. To oppose him meant death. To agree meant complicity in madness. For the princess, it was a living nightmare. Tears streamed down her face as she fell to her knees before her father, begging him to stop, but he dismissed her pleas as weakness. "This is not sin," he declared. "This is destiny. You were born for me and for the crown." Behind the scenes, resistance began to form. Messages were smuggled through servants, letters carried by trembling hands to distant allies. The clergy whispered of intervention, while certain nobles plotted escape. Yet the palace was filled with spies, and the king's eyes seemed to be everywhere. More than once escape plans were discovered, and those who dared to help simply vanished overnight. Suspicion spread like poison. No one knew who to trust. Every whisper felt like a betrayal. Every shadow held danger. And the princess, trapped between gilded walls and her father's twisted will, knew her time was running out. The princess had only two choices left: submit to her father's will, or risk everything in a desperate bid for freedom. The princess had made her choice. She would not submit. But defying a king, especially a father blinded by obsession, carried a terrible price. Some stories whisper that she was secretly married off to a distant prince, her escape arranged by desperate nobles who could no longer endure the king's madness. Others say she was imprisoned in a cold stone tower, locked away from the world until her final breath, and the darkest versions claim she was silenced forever. by the very hand that once vowed to protect her. Whatever her fate, the king's obsession became his downfall. The court turned against him. Rebellion rose from the shadows, fueled by nobles who could no longer remain silent. The clergy condemned him, calling his actions a sin against heaven itself. His kingdom, once strong, began to crumble under the weight of his shame. But this story is more than just the tragedy of one princess, or the madness of one king. It reveals the curse of absolute power, how unchecked authority can twist love into obsession, duty into tyranny, and blood into chains. And what makes this tale even more chilling is what it represents. Because for every whispered legend like this, there are countless royal secrets erased from history, buried in the shadows of castles, never written in the books you read at school.